holding this particular aspect that fears our intuitive wisdom, that fears our intuitive magic, and letting it know it's okay, right? Letting it know that it's no longer in the peril of being killed, of being persecuted, of being seen as the demon or the other. So it's your role here in order to open up more of your channel, more of your intuitive wisdom from flowing through your divine mirror. It's your role here to be the cure for yourself, to be the solution that you need, to let this part of you know that it's in so much pain, it's scared to shine bright. It's here that you need to step forward with compassion. Welcome to the Divine Mirror, where we dive deeply into the journey of discovering your unique inner medicine. I'm your host, Harrison, and here we explore how each of us can become a force of healing and transformation simply by showing up authentically. Join me as we uncover the steps needed to be the cure that is you and the magic of being a true divine mirror for others. Let's step into this journey together. Your inner magical medicine awaits. Welcome, powerful hearts, to the Divine Mirror, episode 5, learning to trust your inner wisdom, or learning to trust your inner intuition. This is episode 5 of your Divine Mirror journey. And if you've been with me here from the start of the podcast, you are surely deep into this reconnection and remembering of this power that you are. Today's episode is all about learning to really trust the intuitive guidance, the intuitive wisdom that comes through as the divine mirror that you are, because you are not just reflecting back to people outside of you their power, their insight, their love. You are also reflecting back the insight, the power, the love that comes through your channel. And today's episode is really going to help you learn to trust that divine guidance, learn to trust that divine wisdom channeling through you. I would recommend that if you're just tuning into the podcast on this episode, go back and watch episodes 1 to 4, because this series I am doing here in the Divine Mirror is really meant to be consumed altogether. So definitely check out this episode, but go back and listen to episodes 1 to 4 also, to really help with a deeper reconnection to your divine mirror. And I also want to, before we get into the episode body altogether, I want to also recommend people tuning into this episode today to really also go check out my previous podcast, the Cosmic Love Antenna. I have had a lot of listeners reach out to me during this show to ask about it and share their love for the previous show. So if you are new to this podcast, you will most likely enjoy my previous 200 plus episode podcast, the Cosmic Love Antenna. So if you're listening on Spotify, it should be recommended under this show. And if not, just go search on Spotify or Apple or Amazon, Cosmic Love Antenna, and you'll see it pop up. I also want to today, before we start, read a beautiful comment over left on Spotify for this series that's beginning. And you can leave your comments in Spotify when you listen to the episode down in the comment section. I'd love to hear your feedback and love. This is from Jenna, and Jenna says, Harrison has done it again with the divine mirror. The power of his resonant voice syncs effortlessly with the frequency of anyone suffering from the pain of their underexpressed personal magic. Prepare to ignite something from deep within you that has always been waiting to be freely shared with people, waiting to grow from the warmth of your beautiful light. Jenna, I could not have said it more beautifully myself. Thank you for your love, and thank you for your comment. And happy it's hitting your heart, and I'm happy it's reaching the people that need it. And again, if you want to leave your love, please do so in the comments on either Spotify or over on reviews in Apple. This really helps people receive this podcast, and I'll also read out future comments and reviews that come through. So would love to hear them. Okay, let's get into today's conversation. I'm going to do a quick little recap of the previous episode, episode 4, where we talked about your unique medicine and your unique reflection. Yes, you are the divine mirror, but you also have a unique expression through that reflection, a unique expression through that divine mirror. And we talked about how do we access that? And there was a big conversation around giving yourself permission to allow it through, to connect to what are the things that are non-negotiable in your life, to connect to your values and your truth. We talked about how your sensitivities and the things that you judge about yourself are most likely connected to your unique expression. We also went deep into the understanding that how others see you. Right? If other people are appreciating a certain thing, that's most likely connected to this uniqueness. When do you feel most creative, and when do you feel like you're in that childlike energy, are also hints for your unique expression. I also left some homework for you to connect into, and this was around talking to loved ones, asking about how they saw you, connecting into your solar plexus and root chakra centers. So if you have not yet, please share with me how all of that went, or your homework over on social media, and I'd love to share some wins and connect to your reflection of this divine mirror that's starting to expand. I'm going to flow right into today's poem, and these poems I've written connect to the theme of each episode. And today's poem, connecting to the theme of trusting your inner wisdom, is called Your Guiding Truth. Within your shimmering soul, a truth resides, a flame of conviction that never stops or subsides. It whispers softly, a guiding channel of light, a beacon of inner wisdom, calling out into the night. Others will come with their judgments and sway, seeking to lead you elsewhere from your truth and its way. But fear not their pressure, their attempts to control, for deep in your essence lies a truthful key to console. Follow your truth, dear one, with courage and might. Let your expression soar with awakening in its flight. No chains shall bind you, no dark walls will confine, for your loving compass knows the direction to divine. For you hold the power, the strength to speak free, to embrace what is you, and authenticity to be. No more seeking approval, no more making disguise. You are your own mentor. Let there be no reprise. So listen closely and softly to the truth from within, for it knows who you are and the path to begin. Embracing your guiding truth, a choice you get to make, a gift you will always have, no outside power can ever take. So this poem is probably one of my favorites, to be honest. And I think if you were feeling into those words, you can see the resonance with today's theme of opening to the wisdom of your intuition and the channel that moves through the divine mirror that is you. This focus of that poem in today's episode is really learning to build trust around one's intuition and personal wisdom, because that is really what flows through the divine mirror. It's really what flows through the reflection that is you and the power that is you to support other people. Because if you're listening to this episode, there is most likely a big desire inside of you, not just to be this divine mirror for yourself, but to be it for others. And in the coming episodes, I'm going to speak about, what that looks like to hold space for others as the divine mirror, and really starting to step into all of that. But before we get there, we really need to start to practice these channels that come through for you to reflect, these channels that come through for you to share with the world. So the question is, one, how do we start to become aware of that? And two, more deeply, how do we learn to trust, this channel, to allow it to come through? Because that is really what it is. It's a big theme throughout this podcast of allowance, right? You're getting this idea, and this is no different. Your intuition and your divine wisdom requires a lot of trust and allowance. And I want to share here a bit of my personal experience, my personal journey with intuition and higher wisdom. And I've really come to understand that in order to channel this wisdom and this intuition through you, a big key in order to do so is learning to shut off the mind. And when I say that, there's such a misconception in the mindfulness, spiritual meditation community that in order to shut off the mind, we must push it into the corner. We must kill the ego. We must add judgment to the mind, and that could not be further from the truth. In order to quieten down the mind and to quote unquote shut it off, and you're never really shutting it off completely, but we're here to, the image that I always get that explains this is we're here to let it know that it's okay. We're here to let the mind know that it's safe for us to express this divine wisdom. It's safe for us to express this divine channel. It's safe for us to really allow this higher frequency, this divine frequency to move through us. And in doing so, you become this mirror, right? You become this two-way mirror, this two-way channel. In my experience, my journey, when I've really held space for others, both in coaching, mentoring, workshops, in-person events, retreats, when channels are moving through me and I am expressing from my higher self and my divine essence, the mind is still there, but it's the mind is taking a step back. The mind is feeling safe. The mind is letting go of control. The mind is letting go of safety and concern, and there is just flow, and it becomes a two-way channel. And what I mean by that is the divine essence and presence and wisdom that comes through me as the channel is not just for the person I'm directing it towards. So in this moment, I'm expressing a lot of my channel as I speak these words on this episode to you. This wisdom and this guidance, 99% of the time, will also be for me. So it's a two-way channel, and it should always be, right? You're not just reflecting out into the world for others, you're also reflecting out into the world for yourself, because often we are stuck in our own limitations. If you listen to episode 2 with the limiting beliefs and stories, there are a lot of mental beliefs that we are unconsciously stuck in. But one of the ways through it is allowing our channel to come through and receiving this guidance from ourselves, right? Realizing that we're always channeling for others and ourselves. So I share that little piece of guidance and insight here to start for you to really understand, what is really possible, what you can learn to do for not just others, but for yourself. And I want to go deeper now into what it means to be this channel. What does it mean to be a channel of this divine truth, this intuition, this wisdom that is intrinsically a part of being a divine mirror? Well, firstly, you were born as this. You never gain this channeling ability. You never gain this ability to be intuitive. You never gain this ability to share wisdom, intuitive wisdom. You were already it. You were born as it. You are already, like the mirror metaphor, you are already this being that can channel intuitively or channel this divine wisdom. So again, it is a conversation of understanding this, accepting this, allowing this, and most importantly, loving this superpower that you already are. Because in this love, as we talked about in the previous episode, devotional self-acceptance, in this love, you can really learn to trust. In this love, you can really learn to surrender. And sorry, not last episode, the episode 3, we talked about devotional self-acceptance. So this is a big conversation around trusting this intuition, trusting this wisdom to be received through your channel. So if we are not trusting, what are we doing? We're in an untrusting state. We're fearful of our intuition. We're fearful of our deep inner wisdom. And fear is one of the biggest blocks we can have to receiving this kind of intuition, the biggest blocks that we can have to receiving wisdom. And fear, and we all know this, even if you're new to this very sensitive divine mirror conversation, you can most likely relate to how fear makes you feel, right? Fear makes you feel small. Fear makes you feel scarce. Fear makes you contract, makes you in a fight or flight state, makes your body in sympathetic, right? All these characteristics that are not conducive to being open, right? And when we're open, we receive. So, what is the most common, in my experience, what is the most common fear that blocks our intuition? Well, one of my personal ones, and one that I've seen a lot in the people I've been able to hold their hands and support, is the fear of standing out in this power, the fear of being seen in this sensitive, intuitive knowledge, being seen in this sensitive, intuitive wisdom. And there'll be a future episode where I'll talk specifically about being seen, right? Stepping out into your power and the sphere of visibility. But here in this moment, I just want to hit on it very quickly and bring awareness to this is a past trauma that a lot of us have. If you don't have this in this life from standing out in your power and being judged, you most likely have it in past lives when you were standing in your magic in all the different ways and you were persecuted, you were ostracized, maybe even you were harmed or killed in a past life for being magical, for being full of wisdom, for being intuitive. So we all have, most of us have this fear of standing in these magical powers, standing in these sensitive, intuitive powers. So the first step here is awareness around it. The second step is giving ourselves love and compassion for these parts of us that are still in fear, right? And like any part in fear, any part in pain, any part in this very dense shadow, the solution is compassion, right? The solution is, as we spoke about in a few episodes earlier, holding the child, holding this particular aspect that fears our intuitive wisdom, that fears our intuitive magic, and letting it know it's okay, right? Letting it know that it's no longer in the peril of being killed, of being persecuted, of being seen as the demon or the other. So it's your role here in order to open up more of your channel, more of your intuitive wisdom from flowing through your divine mirror. It's your role here to be the cure for yourself, to be the solution that you need to let this part of you know that it's in so much pain, it's scared to shine bright. It's here that you need to step forward with compassion. You need to step forward holding it in your heart, and maybe it isn't fully ready. Maybe it'll take some time to fully open, and that's okay, right? You can act regardless, right? You can step forward as the wholeness of you are, as another homework item we talked about. Step forward as the field of love that holds everything, right? That holds the parts of you that are still in fearful persecution mode, and hold the parts of you that are already ready to receive. And this is how we start to receive and trust our intuitive wisdom that moves through us. So this is really, if you take nothing else from this episode, it's really this key point. And you'll see miracles, right? The amount of downloads and intuitive insights that will come through, not just for others, but for yourself, will exponentially increase once you really start to bring loving, compassionate awareness to these parts of yourself. Another way that we can really understand how this intuition and wisdom moves through us as the divine mirror is something we've already talked about. And I just want to share some more guidance and insights around this. It's learning to use your body as a compass, right? Your intuition, right? Your beautiful intuitive guidance will come through your senses. And I'll speak more about those senses more specifically in a second, but just more generally here, you can learn to use the sensations in your body, such as the gut, such as the heart, as a decision-making guide. And that intuitive wisdom that will be beyond the mind will often speak through the body, right? Your body keeps score. The body tells the story of your life in both a trauma shadow way, right? We hold on to pain from the past, and the body is also used as a part of this divine channel that you are. The body is also used as a compass. So you can learn to feel both sides of this fence. You can learn to feel through the body both the shadow and the darkness that you've yet to transform and alchemize, and these intuitive insights that come through you as the divine mirror to share with the world, to share with others. And what do I mean by this more specifically? So, what I'm speaking about here is your spiritual senses, your spiritual guidance system. So, much like you have your physical senses, right? Your vision, your hearing, your taste, your smell, your touch, you also have your spiritual versions of those same senses, your clair senses. These are your body using the sense mechanism, but now as a channel for intuitive wisdom, as a channel for intuitive guidance, both for yourself and the outside world. So this is your clairvoyance, right? Your spiritual seeing, your clairaudience, your spiritual hearing, your clairsalience, your clairgustance, your clairsentience, right? That is your spiritual feeling and along the skin. That's a big one for me where I get a lot of my guidance. I get a lot of the example that I always give. My clairsentience activates when I'm with people, both uh, usually when there's guides present, when there's wisdom coming through my channel from a higher realm. I usually feel it along my skin as goosebumps, as I have feelings along the back of my neck. I have feelings along my chest and my stomach, along the skin. So one very specific example, but we all have variations of this. It's up to you to tune into these clear senses, right? The clairvoyance, the spiritual seeing. Often for me, I will close my eyes and I'll see things beyond the physical, right? I'm speaking to someone, or even on this podcast right now, I can close my eyes and I'll see certain colors and certain images and certain people will come into my clairvoyance. This is not a Harrison thing. This is something that you can unlock. And often with our clear senses, we usually come in with one of these senses already active, one of them more attuned. So each of us will have one of them more specifically heightened. But as you step into one, the rest of them will come online. So again, this comes back to the trauma and the pain from the past that we're most likely holding on to that blocks these avenues of our channel, our intuition, our wisdom from coming through. But you can learn to unlock them, right? You can learn to really strengthen them in many ways. And finally, here, last little piece of wisdom before I get into some practical homework to give you to really expand your channel, expand your intuitive wisdom and receiving this kind of guidance. You can also learn as we start to strengthen our connection to this wisdom and intuition, you can learn to see messages and guidance in the quote unquote outside world, right? And why do I say quote outside world? Because there is really nothing outside of you, right? Everything is you, everything is spirit, God, the infinite. There is no outside. But what appears to be outside, we often get messages through it. And we've all maybe experienced this, right? We experience it through angel numbers, we experience it through colors, we experience it through spirit guides and animal guides. And we'll see it, things in the outside world that will seemingly affirm or point us towards guidance that is needed either for ourselves or people we wish to support. So again, we can all learn to open to this. We can all learn to see this because it's happening all the time, right? The magic of reality, it's always there. What is different and what is shifting and changing is our ability to open to it, is our ability to become aware of it. So I'm using this now as a prompt for you to become aware to the messages that come through the external environment, that you can learn to build your connection to intuitive knowledge and wisdom that you can share as the divine mirror. Right? And for me, it really is a way that we can learn to trust, right? We can learn to be connected to something bigger than ourselves. Because in the end, when we are over reliant and doubting our inner knowledge, doubting our inner wisdom, all of this shuts off, right? When we think we aren't intuitive, when we think we don't have connection to this divine wisdom, that thought itself blocks it from coming through. So one of the first pieces of homework here that we can now shift into is I want you to, much like we did in episode 2 when we were analyzing limiting beliefs and stories, the first piece of homework here is really learning to notice specifically where the story is that you're holding on to that you aren't intuitive, right? That you can't connect to divine wisdom. Tune into that. And maybe you did this practice earlier, but let's do it again if so. Just really look for that story that you're playing, that you aren't intuitive, that you can't access this divine wisdom. Because I can tell you right now that that is incorrect, but I'm not here to project any of my own beliefs onto you. I'm here to empower the divine mirror that you are. So go within, right, and look for that specific narrative and ask yourself honestly, is that really true? Next up, so next pieces of homework are now really specifically connected to opening your channel. So opening your channel to receive this intuitive guidance and wisdom. The first channeling exercise is I just simply want you to go out into nature, and whether it's walking, whether it's sitting and doing a meditation, maybe doing some breath work, connecting to animals, whatever your favorite way of nature immersion is, I want you to do it with the intention of using the earth to ground your channel. We often have challenges around channeling because we are too high, we're too airy, we're lost in the higher dimensions. And this is beautiful in many ways, but in a lot of other ways, it stops us from having an anchor. So one of the best ways we could start to open our channel is first grounding into the earth, remembering that the earth is here to support us, to remind us of how safe and secure we are. So I want you to practice getting out into nature and connecting to that foundation, connecting to that base in which you will open to. Because for me, one of the easiest ways to disconnect myself from intuitive guidance is to forget how secure I am, to forget how safe I always am, to forget how supported I always am. One of the solutions to this is connecting back to the earth. So that is your first, well, technically second piece of exercise and homework here today. Next is, and you can do this in the same meditation if you feel called, within this channeling and opening up to intuitive guidance, one of the best ways we can receive guidance is opening to our higher self or calling to our higher self. And maybe you haven't built this relationship yet. Maybe this is new to you. And it is here I want you to start building this connection, start building this relationship with your higher self, because your higher self will be one of the biggest channels and avenues in which you can always call to wisdom to move through your mirror, always call to for guidance to move through your mirror. So again, within a particular meditation that you end up implementing, I want you to set the intention of calling to your higher self and see what happens. And maybe there'll be nothing. Maybe there'll be silence, and beautiful. We'll start from this place, myself included. But I want this to be a muscle, a big part of this episode, but spirituality at large is learning to trust that you are always supported, that there is always something unfolding, whether you perceive it or not. And this practice of calling to your higher self is a really good way to start leaning into this spiritual principle, because often when we call to our higher self, we will get nothing. We will get silence. We will get nothing that is maybe perceived in our current consciousness. But that doesn't mean that that support isn't there. It doesn't mean that that guidance or that relationship isn't there. So we can learn to really open to this through this exercise. Next up, next piece of homework, channeling specifically, is I want you to, and I probably do this separately to the other two, right? The grounding to the earth, connecting to your higher self. I would do this as a separate meditation. Once you do a meditation, channeling meditation around opening your heart to the stillness that is inside of you. What do I mean by this? It is from the stillness that you are that guidance comes from. It is from the quote unquote nothingness that allness derives. So there is a quiet place in each of us that we can all come back to at any given moment through a meditative practice that is the source of all divine guidance, all intuitive messages that you will ever receive. So if we want to start building our channel, expanding it, and learning to receive specific teachings, we first must go to the source. We first must feel comfortable in that source of stillness. So again, meditation practice with the intention of feeling and starting to recognize that stillness for yourself. Because it's one thing for me to tell you what it feels like for me and the characteristics and how it supports me and what it helps me to understand about myself. But this is about you and this is about your unique experience. So create space for a meditation. It can be as little as 5 minutes, but set the intention of coming into experience of the stillness inside of you, coming into a relationship with the stillness inside of you. And let me know what comes up. For all of these practices here, as always with all these episodes, I really want to hear how they go. I'm not just here within this podcast journey just to give you all these things and step back. I really want to hear how these practices are supporting you, because if we were spending time together in a coaching container, that is really where things would evolve. So reach out to me on social media at Harrison Ma and share how these homework exercises are helping you expand. And I send you a lot of compassion and love for them, because this is as we talked about in the devotional episode 3, this is a practice, right? This is showing up in these ways consistently. So you might need to practice these more than once, and I hope you do, and they won't all fit you, right? They won't all be perfect. That's why I'm giving multiple options, but they all do hold value. So, and you won't know what that value is until you practice them. So again, reach out to me. I want to give a little sneak peek of next episode before we wrap up here today. Episode 6 of this Divine Mirror journey, we'll be talking about, okay, now that we've introduced the Divine Mirror, we've talked about limiting beliefs, we've talked about the emotions and the feelings and how we can learn to observe, how we can apply devotional self-acceptance. And then we talked about in episode 4, we talked about identifying your unique medicine. And now today we talked about the journey of connecting to intuitive wisdom. Next week's episode is bringing this all together to hold space for others, to hold space in a therapeutic way as the Divine Mirror, right? What does that look like? What are the keys to this? What are the challenges to this and everything in between? So stay tuned for that episode. And until next time, I send you a lot of love. And here's to expanding the beautiful Divine Mirror that you are. Talk soon. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Divine Mirror. Remember that this journey of unlocking your inner medicine doesn't have to be done alone. If you're ready for personalized guidance, reach out to me for one-on-one coaching, and let's walk home along this path together. I'd love for you to share also this episode with friends and loved ones who might also find inspiration along this journey. And don't forget to connect with me on social media to share your reflections and insights and the outcomes of your homework from each episode. I can't wait to hear how your inner transformation unfolds. And until next time, keep shining and embracing that beautiful mirror within you.